Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, it's fascinating to see what the pandemic has done to marriage and divorce. Some couples were hunkering down, they actually became closer, and other people are filing for divorce. We'll talk about that with a nationally known relationship expert just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I truly know that I am married to my beloved and my sweetheart and my soulmate. Why do I know that? I knew it before the pandemic, but then we both got COVID at the same time, and we had to hunker down in the same house for something like 20 days. And we watched a lot of Netflix, we ate together. We were inseparable for 3 weeks. And then towards the end, when it came time to go back to civilization, we both kind of got sad, like, wow, we didn't want to go back to the world. I mean, this was really kind of pleasant. Anyway, I know I'm in love with my soulmate, but there are so many couples headed for divorce court because the pandemic created stress inside the home, and stress, unfortunately, has a way of taking a nasty turn, especially when couples fight. To talk about fair fighting and having reasonable disagreements and coming to solutions, Tiffany Spatz, she is a nationally known relationship counselor. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about your background, because you were telling me before the show that you actually, as far back as you can remember, like the playground at school, you were giving advice.
That's correct. Yeah, I would. I found myself. I guess we would go back to elementary age, and I found myself on the playground, and you know how kids in that time, they group up into groups, and I found myself in the middle of those groups and they would come up to me like, that girl said that, or that girl's, what am I doing? And I was not playing as I probably should have. It was a natural gift that I've been gifted with that you don't realize you have until you get older. And it went into high school as well. It was a 2-story high school, and in the middle of everything, bouncing back and forth between classes, they had there's a huge foyer that had steps onto it, and I found myself sitting there. And those were a little bit more in depth. Those are more of, you know, the teen pregnancy, dealing with girls, and what do I do with this relationship? And I don't know, it was just like a natural thing, and I enjoyed doing it. And then it's like you take it for granted because you don't realize what you have. And looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I've done this since I was little.
Wow.
You know?
And now you get to do it professionally for people all over the continent. So I want to show some video. This is video off of TikTok, and this is just romantic proposals, and this is a montage of proposals. But it occurs to me that, you know, when you're in romantic love, you know, everything is unicorns and rainbows, and
Yeah.
and often it's not until after marriage that things get real. I know you do a lot of pre-marriage counseling. What are some of the things that you tell couples when they're in romantic love and the birds are chirping and you know the unicorns are flapping their wings?
It's hard because, right, like you said, it's the butterflies and rainbows, and it's so easily, you can get so easily caught up in the emotion, where the emotion is going to take away from possible reality. And I let couples know, like, look, like let's dive deep. Let's maybe not do some things that we currently would do. And I think it's more of just being open and honest. A lot of them don't want to do that. They want to hide and make it look all perfect. And I just tell people, like, let's be open and vulnerable. And if you can get to that right off the bat, that's going to set you up. and kind of putting down those walls of, it's a relationship, so it's not always going to be great. And I think people tend to focus on good all the time, that they forget the minute they see something that goes wrong, it scares them. And I think it's because they just don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And so just giving them the tools that they need to work through those is really important.
And sometimes people don't know how to listen. I mean,
Yeah.
two people are just
Right.
thinking about the next thing they're going to say. Talk about the importance of actually listening with your heart to what your soulmate is saying.
Yeah, it goes back to that vulnerability and being open and honest, and it's that pride. I think everybody deals with that, to be honest. I've dealt with it at one point, and you think you know what's best, and it takes a lot out of a person to be able to just sit there and listen. But if they have the tools to be able to do that, it's so important, because you have them and you're able to see what makes your partner tick, also what ticks them off.
Yeah.
And you're able to really sit there and you can work through, like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
like he just wants me to hear him right now, or she wants me to hear him right now. And
you've been happily married for how many years
I
now?
have it going on 14.
14.
Yes.
Okay, now, do you ever find yourself in a situation where you're part wife, part relationship coach? And
yeah.
does he say, hey, wait a minute, you're doing the relationship coaching thing?
It is hard. He'll say something like, oh, you got that, Star Wars Jedi mind going on. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's really hard. I try to, after coming home or being in a meeting, I try to put that away.
Yeah.
And I try to just focus on being a mom and a wife. And sometimes it is hard because you can see into things. And then at the same time, I'm like, no, that's something that he's going to have to work on. I don't want to be the nagging wife. And so, we have gone through our own therapy with each other, just for little tweaks here and there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a crisis situation.
Right.
And we enjoy going and doing that together, just so we're always on the same track. I always know how to be there for him and listen to him.
Sure. Let's talk about the pandemic, because I know the pandemic did put a lot of stress on a lot of people, losses of loved ones to COVID, and it can cause couples to their marriage to fray, can't it?
It can. Yeah, the pandemic has been, it's a crisis.
Sure.
You're dealing with people not knowing what's going on, and then it puts them in a frightened sense of mind. And then also, you have a lot of people that are so used to working, and then you put them in a situation where they're forced to stay in a room with each other, and maybe some of them have never done that before.
Right.
Maybe they have used work as a way to get out. So now you have a lot of people dealing with or coming together and dealing with things that they never had to deal with before.
Sure.
So yeah, it does create a lot of tension.
I wanted to ask you about, so I went onto YouTube and put in divorce cakes, and so this is a montage of divorce cakes, and it seems to me like the end of a marriage, no matter how toxic the marriage is, it's kind of a sad thing. Is it? How do you feel about people having parties with their girlfriends or boyfriends and celebrating the end of a marriage? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, it's sad. Now, I would say I'm not against it. There are times when it does have to happen, just out of respect for the person, or I don't accept any type of form of abuse.
Sure.
So there are times when, divorce is necessary, but then there's a lot of times when people think a situation is something to divorce over, when in fact, I always like to tell people, look, if the husband is in it, if he wants change, if he just has that little ounce and she has that little ounce of change, then your relationship has 100% chance of success. You just have to put the work into making it get there.
Sure. Well, let's talk about when somebody knows they need somebody like you, because there are a million relationship books, and you can go out there and watch YouTube videos about relationship advice. How does somebody know when they need a counselor like you?
It goes back to that vulnerable. I know I've been saying it, it's like, real estate, that one saying, location. It's like vulnerable communication, vulnerability. I would go back to that, and you know, it's hard for people. It's hard for people to sit back and go, you know, I need help.
Right. And sometimes you need a mediator. You need somebody in the middle. So, like, if a husband or wife is dominant in an argument, maybe the other doesn't get a word in edgewise. And, with a coach like you can say, hold on, let's listen to what she's saying, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's very helpful to have that middle person. I hear a lot of the times, like, I wish I could just take you and have you in the room to learn. And, you know, it's great to have that middle person, because you're able to, you know, before a lot of the couples come in and like you said, they can't talk to each other.
Right.
Having that middle person there, it opens up each other's eyes to be able to actually come together, maybe for the first time, and be able to argue. But it's in like a healthy way. It's more tamed down.
Sure.
So it's very important to find any type of therapist or a trusted person, even at first. If you don't want to go to a therapist, you know, go find that trusted person that you really can just talk to, because a lot of the times it's just being able to come to somebody and open up and just talk. Like, communication is so powerful, and it brings a lot of healing.
Thank you. Well, thank you for all the goodness you're putting out into the world and the marriages you're saving. We're going to end with your website, which is empoweredmarriages.today. Tiffany Spatz, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.